My dad was a black actor. But he wanted me to go one step further. He wanted me to be an actor. Just an actor.
When you directed, produced your first short film, Multifacial, I remember watching it and seeing this guy, the character, Mike, this very open, very honest, very accessible, very real guy. And there's a line in the monologue where he talks about his father and saying he wanted to be seen not as a black actor, but as an actor. Tell me about I guess the kind of auditions that you had to go through.
Well, when I was
get to that.
That's so true. The irony of Multifacial is it's a short film that explains why you can't cast a multicultural actor. And in the 80s and the 90s, there weren't any multicultural actors. And there was no promise of there ever going to be a multicultural movie star. So even at that time, even in the 80s and the 90s, I had envisioned, you know, the dream of someday being the first multicultural superstar and what that would be like.
This small, short film that cost, what, $3,000 to make?
That's right.
Lands in the lap of a really big-time Hollywood director. Tell me about that.
Well, I had just come back from the Sundance Film Festival with Strays, and I thought that I would sell it there, and I didn't sell it. And then one Saturday morning, I get a call from my agent, and she says, you're not going to believe this, but Steven Spielberg saw your short film. I just started jumping up and down, and I remember I jumped on my bed. I was jumping up and down on my bed, like a kid at Christmas. And the agent said, can you shut up for a second, Vin? I have more to tell you. He wants to write a role for you in Saving Private Ryan.
Wow.
That's never happened in any form of reality for me. I've never seen that happen in the career. I've never seen that happen to the sea of actors I grew up with. I've never seen that happen. I didn't even know if it could happen.
Wow.
I didn't believe it, and she said, yeah, he wants to meet you. He wants you to go to Universal. So I remember, like, being in my closet and trying to pick out what shirt to wear to meet Steven Spielberg. And I ended up with a white t-shirt, go figure. And I walk onto the set of a film he was filming at the time. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, I don't want to say something so obvious, like I'm a huge fan of your work. He probably hears that all the time. He probably wants me to be a lot cooler than that. And he comes over to me and says, Vin, I'm a fan of your work.
Oh my God, wow.
My heart just opened up, and I was just, that sense that I didn't need anything more.
How did that change you, that moment? How did that change you?
How did it change me? I guess the fact that my colleagues, it really changed my colleagues. My colleagues had changed. It was no longer the thespian that would, you know, be rehearsing with me at the park. It was now Steven Spielberg. And he said, you know, I want you to meet Tom. And I said, Tom who? And he started laughing and said, and looked at me like, you don't know what you're here for? Kind of like, do you know anything about this industry? Tom Hanks. And I said, oh, shit. And I was so, I felt so, at that moment, embarrassed. And he said, no, that's a good thing. Don't lose that. He was speaking to keeping that New York integrity, or keeping that integrity, period.
And have you?
It's not easy. It's easier just to hit your mark and say your lines. But that just wasn't me. I had failed for 2 decades hitting marks, saying lines. That when I was on the set with Saving Private Ryan, I would come to the set 20 minutes early and literally talk Steven Spielberg's head off about everything in the script. I was critiquing the script of Saving Private Ryan to Steven Spielberg. I was a nothing. I thought, you know, I had
But
this
he
nightmare.
thought you were somebody, and that shows who he was as a person.
Yes.
Not a director, but as a person.
As a person. He thought that I was somebody. If anyone gets that credit for giving me the first paid acting job, I had never made $7,000 in a year, which was what the qualification was at that time to get health benefits. So I would go to the set early and I would talk to him, and I would talk to him. I remember one day he said, I was talking to him about something in the third act, about Tom Hanks' character. And he looked at me with the most puzzled look on his face, like, this guy is crazy. Vinny, you die in the first act. You're not even in the third act. But he was so encouraging that when I wasn't shooting, he even let me operate a 35mm camera.
You couldn't buy better education than that.
I couldn't. I used to say all the time, and I would say to anybody to take this advice, I would have brought him coffee every day, and he wouldn't have had to pay me. The access to working professionals was what I was longing for. I just wanted to be around them. I just wanted to see what they do and learn from what they do. And because it was all foreign to me. I went up to the woods for about 4 months and just isolated myself to play that character.